Welcome to the Retail Reality Show.
Welcome to another Retail Reality Shorts. New year, and we all thought, hey, let's continue our great shorts because we all thought it's really good, but we all fell short on time. So here is our almost new format, and we thought we give you a regular, more often and shorter update on what's top of our mind, what we're working on, what we see in the industry. And with me are my fabulous co-hosts, Yael. Hello, Yael.
Hello.
And Nicolas.
Hello.
How are you guys doing today?
I'm good.
Yeah. You're always
Busy?
good. You're such a happy person. It's very nice to have somebody who's like who always brings good energy and positive vibe into the
Exactly.
conversations.
Thank you. I always think, the choice is either to cry or laugh. So I prefer to laugh.
That's a good,
That's always a good thing to do. Tomorrow it's raining in Basel. I'm still laughing. So
very good. So guys, short updates, retail reality shorts. What are we going to talk about today? Yael?
Well, obviously you can't go through the streets where retail stores or retail offices are without hearing the word tariffs these days. And obviously, this is taking the industry by storm and sending shockwaves through the entire retail ecosystem. I think it's mostly about the uncertainty, right? Because things are happening, from day to day. There is an announcement, and then the second day it's a counter announcement or a change to the first announcement, and nobody really knows what's going to happen. What is clear at this point is that tariffs are coming up for products, for manufacturing, for logistics. Everything is going up, from soaring import costs to shifting supply chains. And it's really felt not just by the big box stores, but also by the small retailers, the mom and pop shops, pretty much everyone. And I think even if you think about not only the first wave, which is the brands and the retailers, but also on kind of like, all the suppliers that are working and all the vendors that are working with the retail industry, whether it's, big companies like Salesforce and the other ones and small startups as well. Everyone is now kind of rethinking their pricing strategy, their go-to-market to basically try to get ahead of the situation. So I think this is definitely a topic worth exploring today. What do you guys think?
Nicolas, fully agree. Nicolas, I would be interested in your retailer point of view. What's the biggest impact?
Well, in the end, what we see is that it does not directly impact our day-to-day business because obviously as a Swiss retailer, we are not sort of the target of most of these tariffs. And in the end, even the products that we import from the US, it's a minor share of what we sell here in our department stores. The bigger question on the market here is that the consumer climate doesn't come back up. So we've had a phase which was very unusual for Switzerland, where people started to become more cost sensitive, looking into discount formats, like pausing on spending. So this is something that we continuously see. People are very, very discount sensitive. This is something that really also is part of that, say, the global atmosphere or the global geopolitical situation that people feel and are a bit anxious about. When it comes to the tariffs, I think it's more when we talk to suppliers, they have issues moving their products around, because if it's a global supplier, the global supply chain is so reliant on like various countries that right now are sort of changing the rules of what happens when you move product from one country to the other, that for them it becomes almost unplannable what the actual, let's say, landed costs of the goods is going to be. So landed cost is the cost once it's sort of in the country sellable. So basically the landed cost of products change quickly. But then how do you explain a consumer that a T-shirt tomorrow costs 35 when it costs 20 today? So I think that is sort of the biggest challenge that suppliers see on the market, that there's a lack of continuity, a lack of planability, and that shifts their focus onto looking at the supply chain much more than before.
I agree. I fully agree, and I want to just give you my point of view, especially when you talk to my customers who previously had a lot of issues with Temu and Shein. Temu and Shein. I think they are also feeling the heat at the moment because this loophole was closed based on the same discussions and the same tariffs that Trump announced. I think there was this de minimis loophole. For those who don't know, you could ship under a certain threshold without paying any tariffs, right? And they closed down that. So I think that will mean prices will go up, especially in the US. And I read an interesting article recently that they will now focus a lot more on Europe. So I think for US, maybe they achieved what they wanted, at least Trump. But on the other hand, I think Europe will feel more heat because there is this loophole wasn't closed, right?
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, we live in a very global world, right? So if prices are starting to go up, it will impact it will have a global impact because consumers will get used to buying more expensive products. Obviously, the majority of the impact will be rolled down to the consumers eventually because the retailers can't take all the heat themselves. And then we will see it coming into other countries as well. Maybe it will take time, and I know that, for example, if you're looking at marketplaces and Amazon sellers, they're saying that they were receiving some really high POs just before the tariffs were active, basically, because the brands are trying to get ahead and to really have enough inventory for the next few months without paying more. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to get ahead, and eventually it will kick us all in the butt, so to speak. I think, as you said, it's mainly the uncertainty around what is going on, when does it take into effect, how long it will be before something changes, because eventually something will need to change. I mean, the small brands and the mom and pop shows and the small fashion designers, they won't be able to survive this for a very long time.
I agree.
I think it makes sense, and in the end, if we look at what we're facing here, it's a disruption of the global trade system as we know it, and we will have to see what happens after the full negotiations went through, and also after the repositioning of all the other countries has happened, because it's always like whenever there's a threat, there's an opportunity, and if you look at the global landscape when it comes to trade, what's also quietly happening is that there's a lot of discussions on free trade in other regions that formerly had tariffs in place. So it might even as well shift the global supply chain in a way that it either excludes the US or looks at the US as more as a final destination when it comes to selling their product. So I think there is much more to be talked about, or much more that we can talk about in a couple of months or a year once we see what the actual effect on the global economical system is going to be. But I think we're not going to stop talking about tariffs in the next months, guys. I think it's going to come up every once in a while. I mean, China right now seems to be in pause, meaning that also there is again a disruption, or maybe a positive disruption, which will change the dynamic once again. So let's look at that in a month or two again, if you guys are up for it, and then see what has happened at that point. As for now, there's one other topic we wanted to talk about, and that is our favorite buzzword, which in the end seems to at the same time slow down, escalate, be productified. So basically the hype curve of AI has ended, I would say. So in the end, it's not as present anymore, although it's omnipresent at the same time. But also we see a lot of development, and I think for the first time also some disappointment on the market. So if we look at the state of AI and what's happening right now, what's your personal perspectives there? Maybe Nino, you want to start?
Sure. I mean, I have two hats that I have to wear on this. So my personal, private one. So I think there are more and more services that really struck me and positively surprised me. So at the weekend, I tried Manos. Not sure if you have tried Manos.
Oh yes.
So it's like open AI operator. It can browse websites, and that means it can basically access anything and do anything. Any restaurant that has a table booking subsection on their website, you can just direct Manus to and say, hey, please get me a table there at the weekend. And obviously the bigger question is which restaurant, but finally, if Manus thinks this is the right restaurant, it will go there, it will book, and that was quite surprising, and it worked
Will
very
it
well.
also tell you what to order from the menu, or you need to make
Yeah,
those?
it knows me. I mean, it gets to know me. It's a model that you train, so it's a personal AI agent. And in a way, Perplexity is also a personal AI agent. It works differently, but I think personally, in my personal life, very interesting developments and a much better or much different experience. And we will see how this will develop. And I will also talk about shopping a little bit later. And from a professional life, I see a lot of use cases materializing that drive costs down. And first and foremost, it's customer service. That's a very solid use case. I can see everywhere where you bring down the traffic in your call center, where you automate FAQs, and I think that's a no-brainer. It worked okay before with the traditional chatbots, where you had to do and draw the manual decision trees and invest a lot of work in clarifying the intent so that the bot understood, okay, Nino is asking for where's my order, because you can say, where's my order, where's my package, where has DHL brought my product. And it was the same intent, and a lot of effort went into this, and then how to resolve it. But now with an LLM, I think the common denominator, natural language, made everything much easier, and it has gotten a very solid use case. Nicholas?
Well, let me ask you further around that, because my experience is, yes, there is new tools popping up, and some of them really are useful. Manos is kind of almost creepy when you look at what it does. So it's an interesting tool, but also nobody really has an understanding who's behind it, or basically what the intention behind it is. So it's a model by, I think it's a Chinese owner, where you don't really have an idea what happens with what you do in this tool as well. So it's one of these new tools that are very powerful from the beginning. It's interesting to see. What I, on the other side, see as a consumer is that the other models are deliberately made less powerful. So you can feel that OpenAI and the Geminis and all of that sorts, they're trying to sort of commercialize their models now, meaning that if you look at the individual query, the individual computing power that they allocate, you can feel it's going down. So as a consumer or as a user, heavy user of these models, I can feel that the more complex tasks in the normal models, now it sort of only does half of the work. Then when you ask again, it says, oh, I must have forgotten. So you can feel they deliberately tune down the models, because obviously like that's my assumption at least, it costs them too much compute power in the back end. So,
Yeah,
but
also
yeah.
there's so many more people using, and now people are using it, dozens of times per day. I actually learned that. When you're asking to do the task again and again because the first time wasn't great, and then the quality actually goes down, as you said. But I have a nice trick that before, like if it's a complex text, I give it the instructions to the AI, and then I just ask it, like, do you have all the information you need to perform this task? If not, please ask me all the questions that you need. And then it actually asks like really smart questions, and then I get really, really great results for during the first time already, and I don't need to redo it. So maybe that's a nice trick. But I also want to reference what you said, Nicolas, earlier about the hype, being at some point very high and now declining. I think that having been working with startups in the past 15 years or so, I've been hearing about AI already for more than 10 years. When I used to ask startups, what is your secret sauce? The answer was always, oh, but we are using AI. Even before all the hype around ChatGPT and everything. I think that the difference back then was that it was only really, nobody really knew what AI meant. When a startup came and said we're using AI, it was kind of like a black box, right? That their engineering and their R&D teams created this AI engine that's very cool, and it can help you automatically sort 20 different addresses for supply chain, last mile delivery, or whatever it was. But now we all understand what AI means, and now it's really, it's harder to lead us into assuming that AI is going to solve all of our problems. So now it's not enough to say we're using AI. It's now, if a retailer or any corporate company is looking at the technology and evaluating it, it needs to understand what is the business value here. Do these people really understand the business? Can they solve my problems and challenges? If they're using AI to do it, it's great, but I don't care. What I care about is how can they solve my problems effectively, and connecting it to the previous topics, how can I do it without paying them so much? Because right now I don't have the budgets that I used to have.
Yeah, I think from my professional life, I can also tell you. So business value is obviously very important, but I think it's from my perspective and in my work life, it's easy to show the ROI because in the service center, what I just said earlier, you have a certain amount of people. You can multiply that with an average salary. And then you can also count how many service cases do you have. And I think the business case and the math behind is pretty simple, and to prove the ROI. In other cases, it's a little bit more effort, I would say, marketing. Maybe Nicolas, I think you worked also on a marketing use case or commerce, if I remember correctly, right? With the product descriptions. I think it's a more tricky to do it, but we will see it in every domain. My prediction.
I can say the product data use case we're having is the best ROI I've ever had. And the challenge remains the same. If you want to use I think that's the question that I was also addressing. If you want to use powerful features of AI today, it costs money. So it's not as cheap as sort of like the OpenAI test phase made us think. So in the end, they opened up the model and they financed their growth. So basically, they gave us free computing resources. Yeah. I think it's just the one thing that everyone needs to understand is that if you really want to, let's say, cash in on the ROI, you need to build these models smart so that they don't use so much compute power that actually in the end they cost as much as a human being would cost as an employee. And I think if you're not doing it smart, that actually it adds up quite quickly. And I think that's sort of the phase we're in right now. We're looking at commercial use quite quickly after the rise of that hype of the LLMs. And I think right now people are understanding there is some milk and honey, but there's also a lot of work that needs to be done. There's also a lot of structure that needs to be understood in order to employ these models productively and with the ROI everyone is expecting.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the current trend and all those reasoning models that have been coming up in the last couple of months, you don't need to be an expert to say this costs a lot of compute power, because reasoning is kind of dissecting your question, and then there are sub LLM requests, and then it tests the quality. So, and everything is another calling the model trigger, and then evaluating, is this a good answer? Yes, no. If no, there will be another LLM call. So I think I see the same, Nicolas. And on the other hand, I think another perception I've seen, my Google search index has changed a lot in the last couple of weeks. So my perception, I'm not sure if you see the same, it has more AI results. And one of the reasons, my opinion, maybe you see the same, is that OpenAI, Perplexity, and all those players out there are kind of forcing Google a little bit. Because last week, Perplexity made an announcement that they're integrating PayPal. They have done something during Black and Cyber Week where they added shopping capabilities. So I think more and more they are crashing into Google's home turf, and this is forcing them to now also AI-ify the search. Not sure. Are you agreeing?
Not to mention that Google actually has Gemini, which is another AI tool, and Google has shown even before the AI hype that they're going more towards a direction of showing actual answers in the search results instead of giving people the choice of which websites to go into. So I think this actually aligns really well with their strategy. At the end of the day, they want to be the source to provide you all the answers and not just a gateway for you to find your answers somewhere else. This is only natural that with AI and also, to be honest, like people today don't want a million answers. Who goes beyond the first page of Google? We always said that this is like a graveyard for websites that nobody visits on. So it only makes sense that when you're searching for something on Google, it will be a more similar experience to searching on ChatGPT or any other LLM engine and just getting an answer. And if you don't like the answer, you can ask for another answer, but don't give me 100 answers because I don't have time to read all of them.
I think the big interesting question for the next month is going to be whether LLMs are going to get as good in search as Google is, or whether Google is going to employ LLM capabilities within its key domain search smartly, so it actually outpaces what OpenAI and the others are able to do right now. I think that's the one big sort of race that they're racing right now. But with that in mind, I think that's the perfect segue to something we want to introduce. So we would like to discuss more with you, our audience. You are like many of you guys are following us either on Spotify or LinkedIn or all of the platforms. So we're going to introduce a couple of ways to communicate to us, but we want to start today with this post by asking you and inviting you to sort of join us in a little bit of discussion. We want to know what you guys are interested in. Do you want to hear more about the tools that we're using? Do you want to hear more about industry trends? Is there something that you disagree with what we're saying? Is there something about AI that you see perfectly different? So we want to come into a discussion, and we invite you for now to use this LinkedIn post to start. And there's a couple of things to come. I'm going to introduce a newsletter and other formats so that we can interact with you, our audience, who we love and who we want to learn more from.
Well said, Nicolas.
And with that, I would say we say goodbye for today. It's been a shorts. You said in the beginning the retail reality shorts. So we're just going to add a shorts every once in a while. We hope you enjoyed the format, and we're looking very much forward to hearing you or seeing you or hosting for you in one of our next episodes.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you, Nicolas. Thank you, Yael, for your time. And thank you, everyone, for listening in. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.